Welcome to the Dino Dean Show, and I'm your host, Dino Dean, the Dino Talk Radio. We have a phenomenal show lined up for today. The call-in number is 646-200-0067. Once again, the call-in number is 646-200-0067. You guys can hit me up on Facebook, Dino Dean Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dino Dean Show. You can also shoot me an email, and that email address is dinodeanshow@hotmail.com. And a bit later in the show, we're going to be talking a little bit about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. He finally spoke about the problem of police brutality in our community and why now. We're going to talk about that and see are his efforts sincere? Is he worried about selling those Jordans? We're going to definitely talk about it. Also, we're going to be talking about the murder rate in Chicago. And is the emphasis a ploy to blame the victims and ignore the true culprits? You definitely want to stick around and get what I'm going to be saying about TIF money, guys. TIF money. And this is something that a lot of people don't really know about when it comes to city governments, particularly the city of Chicago, and how TIF monies are allotted. But right now, guys, we have royalty in the house with us today. Phenomenal sister, and her name is Queen Quet, and she is the chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation and founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. And with that said, welcome to the show, Queen Quet.
Good evening. How honored to do, Brother Dino?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang out with us. It is a definite privilege. I'm getting goosebumps. I got the Queen with me today, so it's going to be a real good show today, ma'am. And the first thing I'd like you to do is let people know a little bit about the Gullah Geechee Nation and who you guys are.
Well, glad for day I'm from the Dino Dean Show and things like that, where we the crack we teach like that show down in the Gullah Geechee Nation. Now, how most of the people they learn say we the deal and things like that, and most of the time they say, what that? So a lot of times when people first encounter Gullah Geechees, that's the first thing they hear, the Gullah language. Then they wonder, well, what is that? What are you speaking? Where does it come from? Well, the Gullah Geechee Nation exists from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. It encompasses all of these islands in the Atlantic Ocean between those two cities called the Sea Islands, and then 30 to 35 miles inland to the St. Johns River. So this is the region in which numerous African ethnic groups had been enslaved during the chattel enslavement period, and we developed our own language, traditions, heritage, and culture here, which is now called Gullah Geechee. And so we have a number of different things that other people tend to experience if they come here, and then it usually starts, like I say, when they first yeti we the crack we teach like this show.
Absolutely. When I first went in that region of America and I heard the speaking, I was like, I couldn't understand it. And then it was slowed down for me, and then they were speaking where I was able to understand. But as we spoke just briefly off air, I've been to the region, and guys, it is a wonderful part of the country, and that's when I first got acquainted with the Gullah Geechee Nation. Wonderful group of people, guys, and businesses they have. There's a wonderful restaurant that I like to go to on Hilton Head Island. I always frequent that when I'm in the area. So, guys, when you go down there, don't just be dealing with the Hilton Head Corporation.
Thank you.
Go check your people out, the Gullah Geechee people.
Thank you.
Queen Quet.
I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. It's my duty. It is definitely my duty to speak up for us, because not everybody's going to speak up for us but us. So this is what we do, and we always try to edify one another on this show.
Yes, and one of the things, the reason I thank you for that is because more often not, we have people, instead of getting in touch in advance, and this is modern times, so you can go to Facebook and find Gullah Geechee Nation on there. You can find us just like you're on Twitter. You can find at Gullah Geechee on Twitter. We have a website, GullahGeecheeNation.com. People will ignore all of that, and then they will come down to a resort place like Hilton Head and then get there and just look around like they just expect us to be standing out on the beach or something. And then they'll email me when they leave and say, well, we were down there. We couldn't find the Gullah Geechee people. Or they come down and they go to a festival area or a tourist district and take anybody's tour. They don't try to find out if it's actually a native Gullah Geechee giving the tour. They'll just pay for a tour, get on it with anybody. Then when they don't learn anything about us or engage with any of us, they somehow find my office again after that and write complaints and say, well, we were in this place or that place, but we never learned anything about the Gullah Geechee culture. But if you knew to contact me afterwards with a complaint, why didn't you contact us ahead of time so that you wouldn't fall into the tourist trap? So that is why I thanked you right off, because too many people do come to the resort areas. They even bring their family reunions there and then don't even spend $1 with one of the Gullah Geechee owned and operated businesses while they're here. And so I thank you right off the top, because that is a major issue that has been going on for many, many generations now with some of our people that visit here.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. The call-in number is 646-200-0067. And anybody that wants to speak with Queen Quet, please hit 1 on your telephone, and then that way I can know that you are queued up and have a question for her. Well, Queen Quet, tell us about Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week, and when will it be?
Well, Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week officially launched on yesterday. We launched at Mosquito Beach, which is one of our historic Gullah Geechee-owned beach areas that has been there since 1953, continuously operating up in Charleston County, and it goes on until next Sunday. So the August the 7th will be the concluding day of it, which is also the concluding day of the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival. And our theme for this year is a celebration of self-determination.
Very good. And what do you mean by a celebration of self-determination? It sounds good. It sounds catchy, but what exactly are you trying to express?
Well, every year that we host Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week, we have every county and every town in the Gullah Geechee Nation that participates. But we have a different theme at all times. Well, this year we wanted to hone in on the fact and make sure to educate people that this is the International Decade of People of African Descent. And because Gullah Geechees were the first group of people of African descent in North America to stand on our human right to self-determination at the United Nations, this is a celebration of how we have been able to continue our cultural traditions in spite of human rights violations that happen against us from the time of the transatlantic slave trade even up to now. And so people need to realize that something that is of that magnitude should be celebrated. It needs to be commemorated and celebrated and continued, because the process of self-determination is not about a group of people waiting for someone else to give them something. You don't wait for someone to set you free. You have to self-emancipate. And many of our ancestors did that, and that is what we have done by having our own nation with our own leaders and not waiting for others to say, well, we are going to elect the leaders that you must take on.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. And what are some of the festivities that go on during Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week?
Well, I think this is such an appropriate time for even the way you opened the show, because throughout Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week, we have activities like what we did with the launch at Mosquito Beach. That was Gullah Geechee Family Day, where people come out to the businesses that are Gullah Geechee owned, and also we go to different historic institutions throughout different parts of the Gullah Geechee Nation and different Gullah Geechee townships and resort areas, so that we teach people that during tours, living history demonstrations, there are workshops of crafts, there are exhibits that are open, and we encourage people to go there not only to educate yourself, but also to economically empower these places and these spaces, and to show your appreciation for our tradition, our heritage, and culture. As we say, we the Binyang, we the Guayno, we tall. But to ensure that we are not going to be disappearing at all, you have to be able to know that we even exist, number one, and then be concerned about helping us continue that existence. So we have things at restaurants. We have things that are celebratory outdoors, like what we did yesterday. And as I mentioned before, we culminate in Charleston this year with the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival, and that's from Friday, August the 5th through the 7th. So we'll even have the documentary Wilmington on Fire about Wilmington, North Carolina, and the Wilmington Massacre of 1898 that took place, that tried to usurp the self-determination and the self-sufficiency of our people in that city. And then you'll also get to meet artists like Brother Mary Ferris, who's our featured artist of this year, our latest winner as South Carolina R&B Artist of the Year, Gwen Yvette, who's a native of St. Helena Island, as well as meeting sweetgrass basket artists like Greg Grant and Anastasia Ketchens, and being able to sit down with them and actually make the baskets and realize how this is an African tradition that we continue. So there's all of these different things that we've sort of stitched together in the course of the week, the same way we still make those good old handmade Gullah Geechee traditional quilts. And I believe you'll feel the same warmth in the activities that you would feel if you had one of those quilts at your house, too.
You know what, Queen Quet? I just got a text from my wife, and she just texted me. She wants to go. She's in love with the area. She's listening to you right now. She just texted me, I want to go. Well, we can't make it this year, honey. We can't make it this year. We will definitely go next year. My wife
and next
loves
year we
to
will
travel.
be on St. Helena Island, sister. So that's right. Go on, tell them, put them pennies away, and y'all can come on down here. You have plenty for on the damn pot and everything like that.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. And could you suggest a place for lodging for people that want to come down for the festival so we could be spending our dollars in the proper places?
Well, I'm so happy you mentioned that. For years, we had several bed and breakfasts that were Gullah Geechee owned and operated in downtown Charleston and in downtown Savannah, Georgia, because since those are major tourist cities here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, we thought that those would be booming businesses. Due to lack of support, none of them are open anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
None of them are open anymore. So now what tends to happen is that when people come for our festival, they do end up having to stay in the typical corporate hotels, as you mentioned earlier, unless they have family, which we have Gullah Geechee Reunion Day next Saturday. So a lot of people who come down stay with family or friends that are out on the different sea islands, and they'll drive back and forth. There are some Airbnbs that are listed now, but when you see most of them in this area, they're not Gullah Geechee, because Gullah Geechees live in their houses, so they ain't renting them out. And so here it is that is a major problem that we want to reverse. We want to, again, see not only our actual bed and breakfasts reopen in these areas, but we want to also have hotels that are Gullah Geechee owned and operated in the area again, because at one point we did have them. We had them on King Street, downtown Charleston. We had them there on Mosquito Beach, and that's the project we're working on right now, is to restore the historic hotel on Mosquito Beach so that in the future when people come, we can tell you, stay there. And so this is one of the reasons we do the festival, is because money that's raised from the festival goes back to these kinds of projects in our community. And so right now, people are just staying at the hotels that are closest to the Charleston Harbor and that are closest to the Charleston Maritime Center or by the Charleston Airport. But trust me, if people continue to support this endeavor, and this is our 11th annual, we will be to the point where the next time you and I talk, I can list a whole bunch of B&Bs and hotels that are Gullah Geechee owned and operated. And again, the only reason our places closed down is because we weren't conscious enough to realize we need to support our own places and spaces.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. And one of the things we like to do on this show, we love to talk about entrepreneurship within our community and supporting the entrepreneurs, because it's come to a point in time where we have to stop being beggars for jobs. If you're not going to support your entrepreneurs, which in turn will hire people that look like you, then just be quiet.
That's it. That's it.
And that's where I stand now. Stop being a beggar and start building with people that look like you, and then we can have something, because I'm a huge follower of Dr. Claude Anderson, and we have to become economically, fiscally tight with one another so that we as a group can come up and break the economic chains that hold us down, and stop going to somebody and worried about the little affirmative action programs and hoping and begging that we can get in.
And
because we have the infrastructure in place, we just have to invest in it.
invest in it. And I'm glad you mentioned Claude Anderson because he's one of the people in Wilmington on Fire as well. And also when you're talking about economic empowerment, this is, if we look at it, and we talked about this yesterday at Gullah Geechee Family Day on Mosquito Beach, as quote-unquote black folks in America, we have a larger GDP than Canada and a whole lot of other countries in the world. But now, if we
Queen Quet, can
yes,
you
sir.
repeat what you just said? We have a larger GDP than Canada. Say that again.
Canada. As black folks, as a whole group, we have a larger GDP than Canada and a whole lot of other nations of the world. So if we took those billions of dollars that we have as a collective unit and do what you said, invest in the economics and the entrepreneurship within our own communities, we would not be asking other people outside the community for jobs. We would be able to sustain the jobs within our communities and expand and broaden the businesses within our own sector, and we would be a more viable force. We need to be creators. We need to be independent, not dependent, and consumers. And that is the issue. Herein lies the problem, is that we will say, well, your prices, Dino, is a little too high, so I'm going across the street. But Dino's price is only 50 cents more than what it costs you across the street. But Dino now, like you said earlier, looks like you, and that 50 cents is what would go to Dino employing the person who's packaging up your package. But if you keep going across the street, eventually Dino has no one shopping with Dino, and Dino shuts down. So then you say, oh, our community don't have nothing. But you didn't help it have anything. So again, we have to channel the funds back in the community. Every other community of people shares their money 1-to-1, and what that means is the money will go from one of them to another 11 times for the most part. 7 to 11 times. All other groups, Asian people, Latino people, they've studied this already. They spend money within their group 1-to-1, and then that dollar makes it around to at least 7 to 11 more of the same people before it leaves out. And our community is 1-to-1, and it stays 1-to-1. If we spend $1 with each other, then it leaves the community immediately after. It doesn't circulate 7 to 11 times before it gets out. And that is part of the problem.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I want to ask you this question, and we're going to get back to the economics briefly. Tell us about what you learned at the United Nations and what you tried to represent for the Gullah Geechee Nation when you went and spoke at the UN.
Well, I still go to the UN. I'm actually a permanent representative for the Gullah Geechee Nation and the International Human Rights Association for American Minorities, IRAM. And so I still go to the UN on a regular basis and represent our people in a number of different forums and meetings. And one of the things that is of major concern is the same thing we are talking about, being able to have communities be able to be self-sustaining and not have to face brutality and hardship because they are self-determined to be who God created that community to be, that they do not have to be oppressed by other communities. And the greatest thing I think that I learned by starting to go to the UN is what you have, even a photograph of me. I found it on Facebook while we've been talking, while I was at the UN being recorded, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I never knew it existed until I went to the UN. And I believe that if we all studied the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and then held every nation of the world accountable for that law should surpass all of their domestic laws, the world would be a better place. And so I think that that is a critical tool that all of us need to start sharing and have study groups about and be able to start to implement, especially in our own communities as people of African descent.
Absolutely. I have a question from my chat room. It's from one of my good buddies, Mr. Anthony Bay, and his question is the Gullah Geechee Nation recognized by the UN?
Yes, we're recognized, but it's in a somewhat, one might say, a precarious way. the UN is a very complicated body. And so you have observer statuses, you have NGOs, you have all kinds of stuff. So in our regard, as a directorate member of IRAM, we are a part of a group called ECOSOC, and we are in consultative status with the United Nations. So we have somewhat of a higher position with me being able to represent my people through also being a directorate member in that manner. And so we get to provide input on a number of different documents. And so the UN recognizes the Gullah Geechee Nation as another nation of the world. We just have not went to the distance to say we like to have a seat there, because that becomes a whole nother set of issues, as well as another set of hoops and another set of economic conditions. So that's a whole nother topic that Brother Dino and I would have to do a whole show on to really start breaking down how the UN functions.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more question from the chat room, and the question is, do you identify yourself, the group, as Gullah or black people?
Gullah Geechee.
Gullah Geechee. And I think that's very important. That was a great question as well, Anthony. Mm-hmm. And I want to share this with everybody just from my perspective. I look at the term black as something that's just descriptive,
that's right,
but a legal fiction. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give an example of what I'm talking about. After World War II, and the Jews wanted to get reparations from Germany, they could not go to the United Nations and bring their case to the international courts as Jews. You have to be a nation to speak with the United Nations. You can't just be a fringe group.
That's correct.
Therefore, that's why it was imperative for their economic gain and for them to be repaired that the Palestinians were uprooted from their land, and that land was given to the Jews. And that way they can go to the international community as Israelis. Then they can state a case. So, and I said all of that to say this. I know we love our blackness. We love the description of our skin, but it has no legal standing, family. And I had a talk this morning with somebody. It has no legal standing. So, therefore, we need to get a lot more educated on how we do our business, because this is business. And I just got on my soapbox briefly, because I think it's something that we overlook as a group, that black has no legal standing as far as I'm concerned and for what I have researched.
Right. I agree with you 100%.
And to shift gears, talk to us about the gentrification problem that has been going on with the Gullah Geechee Nation and corporations and others, entities coming in and making an attempt to take the land from the Gullah Geechees.
Well, this is excellent, because it goes full circle to where you started off talking about when you mentioned Hilton Head, because it is the precursor to what I call the destruction myth that then entered these Sea Islands, because people started to proliferate this coast with gated areas and golf courses and tennis courts, because they suddenly now wanted to come in and find paradise along the shore. And so this now has also led to the urbanization of rural areas and the gentrification of rural areas, as well as urbanized areas like Charleston, South Carolina, North Charleston, South Carolina, the rural areas like Somerville that are now urbanized, rural areas like Mount Pleasant that are now urbanized. This gentrification has caused a displacement of numerous Gullah Geechee families from property that we owned since 1862. During the U.S. Civil War, Gullah Geechees became the first group of people of African descent to own land in mass within the United States borders. And so when these corporations started to set their sights on this area, and these LLCs and what y'all call development companies, I call destructionaires, started to set their sights on this area, it started out being a marketing tool using the word plantation, but plantation somewhat a la Gone with the Wind, not the real plantations where our ancestors had been enslaved in cotton, rice, and indigo in the physical sense. However, in the mental sense, in the psychological sense, they started to then tell people, well, if we come in and we build this, we'll be bringing jobs to your people. And then if the people have the jobs, they'll have more money. If you have more money, you'll be able to take care of your children for generations. People then gave up their birthright, not realizing that if you give up, you sign these papers with these folks, or you go down there to the county council and say, oh, yeah, we don't disagree with them building this. You're putting off your cousins, your classmates, your church members off of some property. That property is adjacent to yours. When they build a multi-million-dollar resort next to your little $20,000 house, guess what? Your land taxes are still going to go up possibly 50 or 100%, and you didn't even change the doorknob. So now the taxation came and furthered the destruction meant. So there were many tools used that started to remove people. One time they used to call it urban renewal, right? And then we realized it was Negro removal. Now we use the word gentrification, right?
Right.
So
we didn't get classy, not gentrification. We
yes,
got a big
now
word
we call it
now.
Gentrification. But look where that word comes from, the gentry, Southern gentry. They're trying to return to that. You see? So here it is. You have to realize the psychology behind some of the terminology that's used and then realize what it is they're doing up front and foremost. And so the unfortunate reality is that it took a number of Gullah Geechees to be totally removed from Hilton Head before others around Hilton Head realized and said, oh, no, we can't let this happen on our islands. Oh, no, we have to start speaking up and we need to start doing things. And so we founded the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition 20 years ago. In December, it'll be 20 years old, which is the first organization in the entire world to exist to fight back against this issue of displacement. And so we are still here, and we are still keeping up the fight. And as our slogan goes, as a proverb that I always say to people that came to me in a vision one day, was "When I must take care of the root for heal the tree." But you have to know what the roots are, and you have to know where they're located to be able to dig deep enough to find the truth. And so this is the thing that we are doing so that people are aware that you shouldn't just think that the $2 and $3 they're offering you is going to ever sustain your family, because when you give up your land, you've given up your legacy.
Absolutely, Queen Quet. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And words of wisdom, guys, words of wisdom. We have to look at it from a longevity point of view and a legacy point of view. And I'm going to go back to something I talked about a couple months back now with the passing of Muhammad Ali, when I found out that Muhammad Ali sold his image and likeness to someone else. Really? And I was very saddened by that, to see that he gave his legacy away. And then, therefore, people that have absolutely nothing in common with him, probably couldn't stand him when he was taking his stand for the Vietnam War, are now going to profit off of his image, some of his slogans, and basically control the state. So, Queen Quet, what you said is big. We can't be so short-sighted and decide that we're going to give our legacy away for a couple of pennies. It's just something that we have to get over. And many people talking about they want to have nation building. Well, there's a responsibility with that.
Thank you. Exactly. And we like to say words, once again, that we don't realize carry responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sis. Queen Quet, once again, let us know about Gullah Appreciation Week and the dates, and also the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival is going on right now, guys, and she's going to let you guys know how you can come on down there and parlay with our people, spend some money with our people, and help build that economy. Because we have to start with ourselves, and we can't always take money and give it to Target and Kmart. And
you got that right.
You know what I'm saying? So, Queen Quet, close us out with that, please, ma'am.
Surely. Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week and our celebration of self-determination is going on right now. It started on July 30th. It will extend out to August the 7th, and you can follow us at Gullah Geechee. Gullah is Gullah. Geechee is Gee. Geechee. If it a we, no I in Geechee. So Gullah Geechee. So follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gullah Geechee, or follow us at GullahGeecheeNation.com, and you'll see all of the different places where activities are going on. Gullah Geechee owned and operated institutions and businesses that you can support throughout the whole course of the week. And join us in Charleston County, South Carolina, August 5th through the 7th for Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival. You can go to GullahGeechee.info. If you don't want to go on to GullahGeechee.info, and that way you can see all the details. If you go to Eventbrite, you can also order advance passes. And as Brother Dino just mentioned, his wife wants to come this year, but you can't make it. Well, if you go to the Eventbrite link for the festival, you will see that there's also a donation portion there. There's also a section where you can become a member of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition that we spoke about. People around the world are members of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. You do not have to be Gullah Geechee to be a member. You have to be someone who wants to help us continue to keep our culture alive. So if you go to that link, you can donate there. If you say, I can't make it, but I do want to support the effort, you can make a contribution. Or if you say, well, I also want to be a member, you'll be getting a lot of listings of all kinds of things that are going on. When we're campaigning, we need your help, support politically, you'll know, as well as when we're celebrating, you'll know. And so definitely we appreciate you, Brother Dino, for having this show and for having this opportunity to be able to tell your folks out there around the world that are listening to come down here and thing like that and shout what we are wild for this celebration of self-determination, this year Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week. It is truly a blessing to be able to do this on the second day, and I know a lot of my Facebook fans and my Twitter people, they've been posting all day that I was going to be here on the air, so I know they're listening in. So big shout-out to y'all, and hashtag Gullah Geechee all week for us while you follow us and let us know. And also, our flags, our T-shirts, our patches, you can get them from wherever you are. So even if you don't make it to the festival, you can celebrate with us. If you can't get down here, celebrate from where you are. Get a T-shirt, wear it, tweet us a picture. Go to GullahGeechee.biz, GullahGeechee.biz, and you can order Gullah Geechee made and created items. You can also get books about our history and our heritage and our culture and traditions, as well as DVDs and CDs. And then that will help you to learn more about our legacy so that you can teach somebody else. And for the children, what the children must know, you must teach them. So keep on teaching. I appreciate you, Brother Dino, for having me here. And I will be looking for Honey and your wife and things like that if I did we next year.
Queen Quet, I am humbled, Your Highness, that you took time out of your schedule to speak with me and my listening audience. And we will be there next year. Trust me, my wife is an avid traveler, and she loves the ocean. So we will be there next year without a doubt. That I already know, because knowing her, she's already probably booking hotels.
Tickets right now. I know that's right.
Absolutely. Queen Quet, thank you so much for coming on air with us today. I appreciate you 100%. And enjoy the rest of the festival and keep me posted on things, okay?
Will do, for sure. Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings to you as well, Queen Quet. Guys, that is a phenomenal sister right there. And like Sister stated, you know, you can help from afar. You don't have to be there. You can order some stuff. You know, we spend money all the time, so this is what we have to do as a group, is to support one another, because right now I see some very dire things going on in this nation, very dire things with this particular election. And I'm looking at Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. You know, from my research, they're cousins, guys. They're cousins, and they're with that royal bloodline that goes all the way back to medieval Europe. So whoever gets in, the fix is in. So we have to come together, guys. This could be a very dark chapter for us, or it could be a very bright chapter for us if we do the right thing. But with that said, guys, we're going to take a brief break, and we will be right back and move on to our next subject matter. You guys are listening to the Dino Dean Show, Holla Back Radio.